people forget that actors nerd out on each other, and like we are not like too cool to like walk onto set and just be like, oh,
We go, wow.
No, we literally walk onto
that
set.
you?
The first time I saw John, I just nerded out. I was like, oh my god, like you just get close, you're looking for like that's just, actors are just a bunch of nerds. Like that's what we do. Like we're like you guys, we're still fascinated by the process too. So that's, I mean, when I walked up, that's how I felt about everybody on this time. And they would go to Jay and be like, oh god, did you just see that? Like we're just so excited that we get to like play with mom's makeup and dad's clothes. Like we're still just a bunch of kids. We get to do that, and it's pretty fucking awesome.
Hello, I'm Marc, the Senior Film Awards Editor at Variety, so I'm going to be doing the moderating here. And first up, we got John Lithgow. Nicole Kidman. Jay Roach, and Charlize Theron. It is a full house.
Wow, it really is. Oh my gosh, hi everybody.
Congratulations on a great movie. I think you all know, I think I've told you all in one way or another that I saw it the first night you screened it at the Pacific Design Center, and everyone's mouths were on the floor when Charlize came, Megan Kelly. My husband's in the audience somewhere here, and when he saw it, he looked at me and he just went, I told you. And Charlize and I were just talking backstage, and one of the things that amazes me is I didn't know Megan Kelly had a distinctive voice until I heard Charlize do it.
Yeah.
When did you know that you were Megan Kelly?
Oh God. I feel like there's something that you always hope for as an actor, which is that you've done enough homework where hopefully on the day that you show up and the camera starts to roll that you can just forget about it. I can't say that I fully got to that place because, I think it got easier, but there was definitely a lot of work that I had to kind of keep alive around keeping her alive. It never got to that place where it was just like, I'm in it, like this is, but I was shocked, I shared this with Marc backstage, I was shocked that when we came back to do ADR for the film, and we were doing some lines up until maybe 6 weeks ago.
What time is it now?
Yeah. I said to Jay, I was a little concerned. I was like, I don't think I can sound like her anymore. And then we walked into the stage, and she kind of came back a little too easy. And I said, I was joking with Jay, I was like, oh, she's still alive in me. I didn't know she was still in there. But yeah, she definitely, the sound was this, I think almost that, the visual as well, but the sound is there's nothing subtle about her voice. It's very distinctive, and it's one of those things that you always feel like you're never going to get there. And for a good 6 weeks, I wasn't getting there, and then I got a little panicked, and then thank God one day it happened.
So Jay, why this?
I now do voice messages for anybody who needs a voice message, birthday messages, congratulations. I am available as Megan Kelly.
Right now, I just want you to say, hi, this is Megan, happy birthday.
I did that to myself, I'm not doing that.
She pushed it so hard at one point, she actually injured her voice. Were we actually shooting then? Or was
No, it was 2 weeks, 3, it was yeah.
And it was, I was like, oh no, she's really taking this really seriously. And we thought, and it was just finding that voice back, it was amazing watching her go all the way for it. It was incredible.
Leave it to me to find a way to injure myself on a movie that has no action. I will find a way to injure myself.
So Jay, what day did it hit you that said, you know what, this is a movie that I want to make and I want to make it now?
About 5 minutes after Charlize asked me. Seriously, she sent me the scripts to just read, and I called up and said, wow, this is an incredible script, and I think it's important, and it's not important for reasons you would expect. It's kind of coming out of an unusual situation. I just thought that the predicament was really compelling, and the characters, what they were up against, especially Gretchen, what she was up against, jumping off the cliff in a year before the Harvey stuff had blown up, the Harvey news broke, and the Me Too movement exploded a year later. But when she jumped, when Gretchen jumped, there was no real hope of success. And in that kind of the way Roger dominated that world, he was such an incredibly good villain because he was also someone who was beloved as well as someone who was feared as a predator. So you just couldn't really imagine anybody making up something that powerful and compelling. And here it was in a fantastic screenplay already ready to go. Charlize said, "Would you do it?" I said, "If you're producing it and you'll help me figure it out as a man, because I thought I might have a lot to learn." And sure enough, yes, I did. I said, "Sure," and that was right on the same phone call where I didn't know she was going to talk to me about directing. I thought we were just talking about notes.
Nice note. Nicole, you're playing Gretchen Carlson, and like what Jay just said, she stepped forward before a lot of other people stepped forward. How do you not let that inform your work, where she has to be that frightened because she's one of the first? We're looking at it through the lens of Harvey Weinstein and Matt Lauer and Charlie Rose, where when Gretchen was doing it, that wasn't around.
I think she was frightened, very frightened, but I think she has a way of attacking things and going after things that you obviously see, where she sort of is able to commit and say, "I'm not going to give up," and she's incredibly brave.
Did you realize, because I didn't until I saw the movie, the stuff that Gretchen was doing on Fox News? Like she was.
No,
I was shocked. I was like, I can't even believe she wasn't fired sooner.
The new makeup thing.
The new makeup thing.
Nicole found those. We didn't have those in the script. Nicole said, "I think there's more to her going on." She deserves that, because she not only found that, but she also we didn't have access to a lot of Gretchen's story because she had an NDA and hadn't spoken about it in public. Megan had written a book about it, had carefully outlined a lot of what happened to her, and there was a ton of reporting about what Megan had been through. She had spoken about it quite openly. So Nicole just had so many good instincts about adding more things that we had sort of just didn't have access to based on stuff she was finding, and those two scenes were really important. There's also the scene where she says that she can't really reach out to Megan because Megan would reach out to her, and she's jumped off the cliff and no one's helping her because Roger pits women against her. Nicole had suggested that scene, and we ended up shooting it quite late in our post process. It was our only one day of stuff, and again, Nicole really helped flesh out the Gretchen character.
I wanted her to be acknowledged for, I think, what she did, and also obviously have her explored even with the limited time that she has, because she is really the godmother of the whole thing, and if that isn't seen, then that's such a shame. So I'm so glad that the film gives her that. It's important.
So John, I think I've said this to you, and I don't mean this in a mean way. Roger L was so pathetic, and you did it so well. And I know, like what Jay said was, people were scared of him, people loved him, but I just found him pathetic. And you did it. The scene with Margot Robbie, which of course we have to talk about, it was so, sorry, I keep saying pathetic, like it's really mean, but how do you even get in that mindset of a man like
Well, I'm very good at pathetic.
I set myself up for that.
No,
That was like at the top of your resume.
pathos, that's me. No, I mean, he was a completely fantastic character to play, to attack, because of all those different qualities in him. He was a very powerful man, and he created this extraordinary institution, and he had people who were completely devoted to him, and you see it all in the film. There were so many different reactions to Roger because there are so many different Rogers, and they can sometimes change in the middle of a sentence. My own feeling, I knew very well, I accepted the role of the villain of the piece. I played a lot of villains, and I do enjoy them. And I'm always sort of on the villain's side, just in the way I approach it. No one is the villain in his own story. My own feeling is all of us are equally insecure, and we all deal with our insecurities in different ways. So that's sort of what I go after. I try to get inside him and try to unlock the mystery of these compulsions of his. And it came, I mean, I was enormously supported by Charles' script. I think it's all there. And in that signature scene with Margot, I mean, he just seems like, pathetic is the word. And,
thank you.
And I found him, I thought it was very interesting to look for things like remorse and self-contempt and terrible shame, even in the midst of this vile act, this really treating someone so unspeakably and yet sort of hating himself for it. To me, that was a fascinating duality to work with.
Charlize, let's talk about Kayla, because one thing, I don't know if audiences know right away, Kayla was not a real person. She's a composite of multiple women. Why? Why not have someone real in that position?
I mean, Jay, you can talk to this as well. We I think Charles really wanted a representation of the younger generation. The girl that comes in, that Gretchen and Megan was at one point, and to really kind of like see how they get sucked into this kind of the cult mentality that Jay always talks about. So a lot of these women have NDAs. There was so many compelling stories of individual women who had great stories but couldn't tell their stories. And instead of adding more characters to it, we wanted to show all of those stories, and we thought we could really do that very well with creating a character that was based on maybe 3 different women and their different experiences. And so obviously you guys have seen the movie now, it's pretty populated. It covers a lot of people's stories, which makes it great because you really feel like you land in a very specific world. So we didn't want to kind of like add to that. And she really was a representation of that like younger Christian millennial that shows up who, a lot of people who ended up working at Fox really like idolized. Like it really was what they were raised in, it's what they believed, it's the mecca of where they want to go and work. And to watch somebody like that who comes in fresh and has all these hopes and dreams, and to see that get crushed, I think was very much the story of a lot of women at Fox. And we felt like creating that character could really kind of tell that story.
Jay, talk about shooting that scene between Kayla and Roger. The one thing that I talk about a lot is you make the audience sit there. And like it's almost, we start holding our breath, or there's a moment I think even where I'm like, okay, they're gonna fade to black. They're gonna cut to the next scene. And you make us sit there through the whole thing.
Yeah, it was a very deliberate choice, and they're actually, Margot's living it real time. We didn't film, one direction and then turn around and shoot the other direction and then do the wide shot. We shot everything all at the same time. It was very important for me that it lived, that nobody was ever off camera, kind of being able to dodge the intensity of it. It's hard to explain how it felt. I actually don't operate the camera that much, but I operated the wide shot because I was like, I don't want to put them through this a whole bunch of times. So let's roll all the cameras at the same time. We didn't have an operator, so I'm sitting there in the wide shot, and which turned out to be an important shot because it shows the distance between them kind of changing in the middle of the scene. And it also was the shot she walks into the foreground of, and so I'm looking over her at John when he's looking at her and telling her to lift her skirt. And it just, because I was sitting right next to her and watching his face, I felt like I was having even more empathy with what she was going through. I was so in his gaze, just off the lens. And I knew we would be in that shot in the edit too, and it just felt, it was life changing. I mean, that sounds too big, but it really was. I was like, this is something I could never really imagine. As a man, I just wouldn't know what this is like, and I hope I can put Min in that same chair I was sitting in right at that moment to feel what she was feeling. And yeah, when we started editing it, they were both so extraordinary. John was, again, I think pathetic is part of it. But there's a menace. There's a thing of him being able to push her and then push her more and then push her more until she's so far over the line where she thought she was going to go, and she didn't even realize when it was happening. And that wasn't pathetic to me. That was like forceful and terrifying. And just the way he was breathing and the kind of mixture of power and sexual requirement and demanding the loyalty of that sort of attention back to him. It was so complicated, and it just, to me, sort of stood for so much of what everything is about the movie, just to try to get people to empathize who wouldn't understand what she was going through. And it is different, what you were saying before, it's different from the other women. It's important why she was a composite character and a fictional character is partly because, one, as Charlize says, we couldn't reveal the stories of women who were harassed late in Rogers Creek, but they hadn't felt free enough to come out. Many of them spoke to the Paul Weiss group, but they hadn't spoken in public. But it was also a power thing. They part of the reason they didn't get to tell their stories were like Megan did, and I do think Gretchen will one day, is because she has no power. She's not going to get a big settlement. She has to go away. She's like Rudy Bacter, the woman who stalked you here at the beginning, who was on a meteoric rise 6 months into her contract. The guy hits on her. She has to quit if she gets fired, actually, just because he hit on her. She didn't even complain. And a person that knew she got hit on complained. She's never worked in broadcasting again. She was going to be the next Christiane Amanpour. She was an amazing person. Never worked in broadcasting again. So Kayla is more like that she's not gonna have a settlement. She's not gonna have big lawyers, and so it was really amazing that Charles found a way to have all three women at completely different power. Megan was super powerful, Gretchen's power was waning, and Margot's character had no power. So that's why she was so important to the balance.
It was amazing to play that scene with such a courageous actress. And I think courage is something that she has in common with these two, and with like 6 or 7 other incredible actresses in this film. It was amazing to work with these people. And I knew from I, Tonya just how Kayla could just Margot could just shed her ego completely and just...
Have you seen Suicide Squad?
just a kind of fierce courage. Otherwise, she could not have done that scene.
Nicole, did you reach out to Gretchen? Because I know she has the NDA, but she's been very out there. She's been talking, We don't know her complete story because of the NDA, but did you reach out to her and say, hey, on the side, what could you tell me?
I did, and I asked Charles and Jay.
We tried, but we couldn't link her up. She just couldn't talk. She's out there, but she never talks about this particular part of her story.
But I had access to all of the she's done a lot of things to camera. She's done a lot of podcasts. She's done things that, and you can watch her and sort of absorb. She's done interviews.
What would you want to ask her?
Now,
Yeah.
I mean, so many things, because I think Jay would too, right? We want to know her full story. Actually, just to hear her story from her point of view, from beginning to end, probably would be fascinating. And you know, we've managed to. I can definitely imbue what I think it is from as we all probably can. But she's also representing. I mean, such a bigger. The whole film, hopefully, is representing a much bigger thing here.
Well, that was my next question
Yeah.
for all of you. What do you want people to get from the film? Because, you know, we're living in a time politics are hot right now. It's heated. You can't watch this movie without thinking about politics, because how many times does Roger Ailes talk about loving Trump just for the TV ratings? What do you want people to get?
To me, these are just characters that you just deeply empathize with, and I mean, it's one thing to follow the Me Too movement and follow the news day by day, and the scandals erupt, and but this just takes you right inside the experience. I mean, to me, it's the first time I've ever seen sexual harassment portrayed in a real, like going behind the door and seeing what the dynamic is probably like. Coming, you know, Kayla goes into that room expecting one thing, and only incrementally, step by step, it turns into something just life-changing and appalling. And you see her walk through the newsroom after it happens with this bewildered, disoriented look on her face, and people looking at her, sort of sensing what's already happened because they know the history of the place. All those things are just portrayed in a way I've just never seen it before. It's an incredible act of empathy and perception.
Charlize, what do you want audiences to get?
Listen, I think I always worry about telling audiences what they should take away. I really believe that the movie that we made is a really entertaining one, and I think that you know, on its own, it stands on its own merit. I'm proud of it in that sense, that you can watch this movie and enjoy it, and at the same time be furious and be disturbed and be shocked, but at the same time watch real people kind of like cope with that with dry humor and irony, and it's still I didn't drink, I swear. I can't say it. Oh my God. Irreverent. Yeah, exactly. It'll probably be easy. Irreverent. Thank you. Thank you very much. Honest to God, just good old sleep deprived. But I think the thing, and we've talked about this a little bit, so the thing that I think is really dangerous about sexual harassment is that it lives and breathes in so many gray areas. And I think that up until today, we've wanted to believe that it lives in this box of physical assault, rape, and these kind of extreme cases that we want to say is sexual harassment in the workspace. But what is really dangerous is the things that women have to endure on a day-to-day basis, a week-to-week basis, a month-to-month basis, and that becomes year after year after year. And it's the little moments of being belittled, of being sexualized, and it all being done in just and in a joking manner. And a kind of like, that's just what the good old boys do, don't take yourself so seriously. It's those things that are really, really dangerous, and I don't think we've ever really addressed those things for the damage that they can do. And I love this story because it covers all of that. It covers the small things. The moment your boss passes you in the hallway and says you should wear a shorter skirt. There's not a woman over 40 that I know who don't have a story like that. That is really problematic, that we live in a world where we think it's okay to have workspaces be filled with that kind of attitude. And so this story just amplified so much of those truths. And the fact that we've been able to tell that in a way where I think people are surprised by it and the impact that those moments have on women, I feel it can maybe be a small part in us kind of shifting how we view these things, how we think about these things. When our daughters go to work, do we want that for them? Our sisters, our mothers, like, it's those little things. Like, you don't have to get raped at work for it to be bad. You should be treated with respect, with dignity. And these like small little things that happen and just shouldn't happen.
I know we talked about Charlize's voice, but I want everyone to just tell me first, what was it like that day she walked on set in full Megan? When you first saw her as Megan, heard her as Megan. You don't, pretend you're not here.
It was surreal. I mean, we've had people in screenings, very sophisticated viewers on multiple occasions, and many people in the audience admit that they thought for a while at the beginning of the film that we were still using archival footage and we would eventually get around to Megan, to Charlize as Megan. And you hear the gasps and murmurs that they start to go, oh my God, that's her, that's Charlize. And it was a little like that when we did the first makeup test, I think, when you were both in the room together, and John's transformation was pretty astonishing too. And Kazu designed the makeup on all three of their transformations, but when John and Charlize were in the same shots, and we were just shooting stills at the time, we knew, okay, this is going to be exciting. Because I think audiences, you can tell from responses here tonight that there's something very exciting about the overlay of incredible performances and a good story that also hit that other degree of difficulty of taking you back in a time machine. They're so close to what the people seem like they really were, and that's a remarkable thing to feel that the audience is coming in with you to that degree, and it's because of that transformation. So it was a whole team of people, the hair people, the makeup people, the wardrobe. Colleen Atwood did an incredible wardrobe and helped John add some pounds, and Gretchen added some pounds too.
Shape.
Yeah, shape. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so it was all, we had an incredible team that contributed, but it's really, I mean, the performances have to be great, or that just doesn't matter.
I was just gonna add, people forget that actors nerd out on each other, and like we are not too cool to walk onto set and just be like, oh.
Go, wow.
No, we literally walk onto
that
set.
you?
The first time I saw John, I just nerded out. I was like, oh my God, you just get close, you're looking for the neck. That's just, actors are just a bunch of nerds. That's what we do. We're like you guys, we're still fascinated by the process too. So when I walked up, that's how I felt about everybody on this time. And they would go to Jay and be like, oh God, did you see that? We're just so excited that we get to play with mom's makeup and dad's clothes. We're still just a bunch of kids who get to do that, and it's pretty fucking awesome.
Nicole, you said you added a little padding, but one of the things also I noticed, and this is to Colleen Atwood's credit, who she's just beyond amazing.
Because she needs a few more Oscars.
Right. Is the clothes, the wardrobe for Gretchen Carlson. I was like, oh my God, that's right, that's Gretchen Carlson. It was so distinctive.
That pink.
The pink, and then there was the blue one.
Yeah.
And again, this sort of goes back to the voice, and then the wardrobe was I didn't realize how, maybe it's just I don't watch Fox News, so I really don't. It just doesn't hit me.
What's wrong with you?
It's a other conversation. But it's so distinctive. So when you slip into that pink dress, are you holding yourself differently?
Walking differently and moving differently, but also kind of thinking differently. I mean, a lot of it is, as much as there is all the exterior, I think, and I would think all of us would say, it always starts inside. For me it does. So And I kept saying to Jay, I don't look anything like Gretchen. I'm 5'11". She's 5'2". Are you sure you want me to play this? But he kept saying the essence. I mean, the same thing was for Virginia Woolf. I didn't look anything like Virginia Woolf, and I think sometimes as actors you just go, I'm just going to jump in
That nose
and
was
do
fake.
it.
That nose was fake.
But finding the feelings, the emotions, all of those things, then imbues the rest, and the rest comes, and you hope that it works within the storytelling, and you rely on your director it's like, help! and are we there, and is it coming together? But when you have, and this really is a cast of extraordinary actors, because you also have Connie Britton, you have Alison, you just have this wealth of talent. That you go, okay, pass the baton, pass the baton, pass the baton. And Jay's got to pull it all together. But it's wonderful to have also the text that you can rigorously work on, and it's there, and it holds up too, and that's where Charles Randolph gave us that.
Yeah, Charles was with us the whole
extraordinary.
time,
Yeah,
adapting
and
to us and all of our notes throughout the whole process, doing great work at rewriting as we went along.
John, you told me, I think it was at the Governor's Awards. So what did you do when you were in the makeup chair?
The makeup was 2.5 hours long, and I was in the middle of a writing project. I needed as much time as I could get, and I thought, well, that's 2.5 hours a day. I'll make good use of that. I was writing this book of poetry, a satirical verse that's only just come out in the
You're
last
such
month.
an underachiever.
What did you do in the makeup chair? I sat there.
I would walk in at like 6 in the morning, and they had everything set for me. I was writing these ridiculous doggerel poems, and
As one does in the makeup chair.
and the guys, these two wonderful guys, Richard and Hero, they would set a cardboard box on my thighs, and a magnifying glass. I'd take off my glasses because they had to work on my face. I couldn't move. And my little poetry book and my pen, and I would just concentrate for like 4 minutes and think up a couplet.
That's what you were doing.
Is what I was doing, this book has 33 short poems and one 10-page poem, and I wrote that entire poem in the course of shooting. And I read it to the guys on the last day.
But who did you dedicate?
And they say men can't multitask.
But who did you dedicate the book to? Charlize, Jay, Nicole, or Margot?
I dedicated it to Dumpty. That was the subject. Actually, there's no dedication. I just quoted our president.
It's just really fucking impressive. That's all I'm gonna say. It really
I
is.
think there's going to be a weird trend where people are writing poetry and making people stick stuff on their faces while they're doing
Well,
it.
otherwise you're just sitting there for 2.5 hours.
Yeah, that's what I did.
There we go.
3.5 hours, actually.
Yeah, how long did it take you to do your makeup?
It's around the same time as John's, but then I had to get my actual makeup on my prosthetics, like my fake lashes and my actual makeup that she wears. So the prosthetics was around the same time, but then I had to.
Where's your book of poetry?
I would listen to books on tapes. Like that was.
You would read books on tape?
Yeah,
It
read
was a
books on
wonderful
tape.
atmosphere on the makeup trailer. It was very meditative because we were all just
We all shared a trailer.
Yeah.
But you were sequestered in a room
yeah. Well,
with a wall.
That important thing.
Because you were the man.
I know. We removed you.
I was alone with my poems.
Did you ever go offset in full makeup?
Oh no. No.
Terrible idea.
Do you know this is a funny story. Well, I think it's a funny story. The first time I ever had prosthetics done was the first one of the first jobs I ever had, and I had to get a black eye, and so it was the first. I was like, 19 years old, and I was getting a black eye with this prosthetic, and I was like so chuffed. I was just like, this is so amazing, I'm never taking this off. And I drove home with it on, and I got pulled over, and it was fucking horrible, because this cop was convinced that I had somebody just beat me up. And I was like, then had to prove to him by pulling this thing off my eye, and he was then even more disturbed. And I just remember going, it was like a 2-hour thing with this cop who thought I was like gonna die and my boyfriend was gonna kill me, and it was so I learned a very important lesson: must take all prosthetics off. Good job.
I think on that note, thank you very much.
Thank you.